The Buccaneers moves ahead 6 weeks, avoiding the immediate aftermath of the major shock of the previous episode, in which Seadown killed his brother Richard while on a rescue effort to free Ginny and infant Freddie from Seadown's grasp. Why this program is rushing through some rich plot development for the sake of time is still a mystery, and it is a heinous crime that we aren't able to witness James Seadown's psycho-ass being thrown in prison. We were worthy of better. However, 6 weeks later, everyone at the Brightlingsea London residence is still a little disorganized when it comes to the morning part of this celebration. Conchita has yet to cry, which worries everyone. Instead, she enjoys spending time laughing at the park and dressing up as herself and her daughter, Minnie. To be honest, this seems to be far more fruitful than the Dowager Brightlingsea's tendency to sit in silence when people arrive to pay their respects and drown herself in black. She has the gall to criticize Conchita for her parenting decisions, but she hasn't, apologized for being a piece of shit mother and letting James get away with what he did for so long. You would think that after one son was killed by the other, she would stop advocating for good parenting by being aloof and withdrawn, but you would be mistaken. Conchita and her mother-in-law's conflict erupts during Richard's memorial service at his old school. Conchita does her best, dressing in dark hues and remaining silent as people talk about her husband as if they knew him, but she loses it when she hears Minnie sobbing in the back room and leaves. In front of everyone who has gathered to mourn Richard, the Dowager Brightlingse follows her out and confronts her because she doesn't like that. Fortunately, Conchita eventually yells straight into this woman's face what we've all wanted to say: "How dare you? For heaven's sake, how could she?" She informs her that he would have detested this. The fact that he was a breathtaking, big-hearted, titan of a man has nothing to do with this melancholy little ceremony in a town he never liked. Thank you so much, Conchita, for choosing to commemorate her spouse in that manner. Even after all of that, Richard's mother still won't express regret, apologize, or provide her son's widow with any consolation. She appears to be psychologically unable, and she is a recent widow herself. Conchita's problems during this grief phase are not limited to the Dowager, though. She is unable to even look Ginny in the eye. Ginny is inconsolable because she knows Conchita must despise her and hold her responsible for Richard's passing. It turns out, however, that Conchita's refusal to look into her friends' eyes is due to her inability to tolerate the pitying expression on their faces. Conchita is only reminded of her incalculable loss when Ginny apologizes and tiptoes around her. Conchita is simply taking her time. It's not as if she is refusing to cope with her sadness entirely. Not allowing her to express her pain more openly feels both sympathetic and annoying. This annoyance is particularly felt in relation to Ginny and Conchita. Conchita apologizes to her buddy at the end of the episode for bringing her sweets into bed as a form of retaliation. They laugh, which is fine, I suppose, but they don't really talk about how they are both young women now living alone, parenting small children, and coping with the pain of what happened. It would be more fascinating if Conchita felt a little resentful of Ginny, even if the mistaken blame was just temporary. Once more, the Buccaneers prepares itself by offering certain emotional arcs and tears for these characters, and actors, to explore, but then abruptly backs out before things become too complicated. Conchita eventually lets out a nice cry over her deceased spouse, in case you were concerned. Honoria gives her sister-in-law a letter that Richard wrote her when they met in New York, along with one of his childhood toys, a scary stuffed pig. The beautiful letter, which is read over a montage of Conchita and Richard's love journey, talks about Conchita's joy and how she made him feel from the first time they met. I'll admit that I cried. However, I also left it with the hope that the actual events between those two that we witnessed during the previous 2 seasons would have been as poignant and sweepingly romantic as that montage. The second season of The Buccaneers now seems to be a study in lost chances. Kids, don't worry. This week, the crew in England isn't the only one enjoying themselves. In order to assist her mother throughout her divorce proceedings, Nan has made the trip to New York City. You can get your fill of overt misogyny in this plot if you don't already have enough of it in your own life. By the end, it will feel so amazing that you might want to punch a hole through the wall. It's amazing, in fact, that Patty Street. George doesn't end up smashing her house's walls with a sledgehammer. That woman is the one who ought to be taking part in cathartic demolition. Tracy's actions clearly contradict his repeated attempts to persuade his wife to revoke her divorce petition or to tell Nan that he doesn't want any of this circus and just wants things to return to how they were, which, for the record, is him cheating on Patty with no repercussions. His lawyer's whole plan is to demean and humiliate any woman who testifies, including Nan and Patty.